Hi guys, welcome to YS Khong Driving, and today we're going to talk about car handling. This is prompted by one of our viewers who said, "Hey Uncle YS, all this handling about the car, isn't it about the tires?" Well, yes, young man, it is about the tires, but that's not everything, yeah? So if you thought that it was tires, let's do an exercise. We'll just take a box, like this box. Then we'll put 4 tires on it, okay? You put the 4 best tires onto a box, okay? We just put a straight bar through and have a wheel connected to it. Then we put the 4 tires on it. Can you imagine it going around the corner? So you know it's not just about tires, because you're talking about the drive, whether it's front wheel drive, whether it's rear wheel drive, what is the suspension like when it goes around the corner, how do the tires behave. So we talk about wheel alignment, we talk about suspension, we talk about setup, okay? So all these are the things that matter, okay? So in a nutshell, how a car is built also determines how it's going to handle. How low is it? The lower it is, the lower center of gravity it is. When it's high, then it doesn't handle as well as a low car. So the question is, should we build all cars low? Well, that would be ideal, right? If you had a very low car like this one, and you have an obstacle that you needed to cross, like a speed bump, you will get stuck, or the front may hit, yeah? So that is a no-no. So that's why you have SUVs, which are higher, and you have cars that also have higher ground clearance. There's a reason for it, yeah? The height will depend on the application and what is the purpose for the car. If it's an everyday car, they usually want to have some decent ground clearance so that you won't scrape the bottom just because you went over a brick, yeah? Or if one of those humps on the road, then you will have problems. So the height of the vehicle depends on what the vehicle is used for. Then the type of suspension, whether it's leaf spring, coil spring, independent suspension or not, will also have an effect on the handling, okay? So so the question is, why don't all cars have racing suspension? You can't. Let's say you wanted a truck or MPV, you need to carry people. Then you need to have a stronger suspension. If the vehicle is heavier, you need stronger suspension. Like the old trucks of those days, they have leaf springs. Even the trucks today have leaf springs. Why? Because leaf springs are cheaper to replace, and also they can carry heavier load than coil springs. Because if you need to carry load on the car and the springs are soft, then the whole car will sink, yeah? And also the shock absorbers, what is the rating of the shock absorber? If it's too soft, then you get a very wallowy ride. If it's too hard, then you get a very stiff ride. And another example is on a small car, say like a Axia or a Beza. The car is about 900 to 1 ton, about 1,000 kilos. And then you need to carry 5 people in the car, and the weight can be another 400 kilos. So they have, and luggage. So total maybe 500 kilos in the car. And what will happen is, on a 1 ton car, 1,000 kilos, you put in 500 kilos of weight, you are increasing the total weight by 50%. Okay? So therefore, the suspension must be built that it can take at least maybe 1,500 kilos of weight. So therefore, the suspension, the springs have to be hard. And that's why on a smaller car, the ride is a little bit stiffer, because they have to build the suspension stiffer to cater for the weight change when they load. Whereas on a car that is 1.7 tons or say 2 tons, easy for calculation. A 2-ton car, and if you have 2,000 kilos, yeah? And the weight of 5 people and luggage is still 500 kilos. So the total weight change, 2,000 to 2,005, the additional weight is only 25% of the original weight, okay? 500 out of 2,000 is only 25%. So the weight increase is 25 plus 25 instead of plus 50. So therefore, the standard suspension of the car, yeah, it still needs to have bigger springs and all that, but it's made, it can be more comfortable because the additional load that it has to carry is only 25% of the weight, and so therefore the bigger cars are always more comfortable. So you ask then, will a lorry be more comfortable? No, because the lorry can be 4 tons or 5 tons in weight, but it's made to carry 10 tons of load. So the increase in the weight of the lorry when it's fully loaded and not fully loaded is like 2 times its weight. Okay, so therefore the lorry springs are much harder. So in the same vein, if you take a truck like a 4x4 truck, Toyota Hilux or something like that, okay, or a Ford Ranger, then you will find that the springs are actually a bit harder. Then it comes to the suspension type, okay, wishbone suspension, McPherson struts, torsion beams, they all have different type of effect on the ride and handling. Okay, we won't go into that at the moment. Then we look at the suspension tuning. Okay, how the suspension is tuned also determines how your car handles. So let me give you an example of suspension tuning. In the old days when I used to rally, we had problems with cars. When we go over a jump, so you go over a jump, then the cars will have this problem. Okay, what happens is the front tends to go down or the tail goes up, and you end up with broken lights or you crash. So we used to be very careful when you go over a jump, because you don't want to go too fast, because if you go too fast it goes like that and you die. You go slower and it goes like that, not so bad. So I was driving a 1.6 liter car in those days. It was a rear-wheel drive Toyota. So that's why this Supra, my dream car, is good to be here. This is the older Supra. Yeah? Now, so I learned that, or rather with consultation with my drivers, especially my Australian driver, Greg, he said that, YS, when the car hits the bump, the front will go up, okay? And then what happens when the rear wheels come and hit the bump, it kicks up the tail and you end up like that. So therefore, you need to have a suspension that gives at the back. When you hit the hump, it gives, it goes in, then it doesn't kick out. So I thought about it and I said, okay, let's see if I can find the right one. So I checked the parts catalog and then I found, hey, rear suspension, there are 8. So why are there 8? Because they already knew that we would need things like that. The parts were there, we just didn't know how to use. So what I wanted to do was, I wanted a suspension that goes in quickly but comes out slower. So what you needed was softer springs at the back. So we used a softer spring. Of course, in a rally condition, the springs are already harder than standard. But in this case, it was already harder than standard, but maybe they were too hard. So I brought them down to a softer spring so that it goes in easily, but not so soft that the whole back is unstable, right? So it's harder than standard, but not as hard as what others would put on their cars. Then you look through the shock absorber list. For shock absorber, there's always a bound, that means compression, and rebound when it decompresses. So the shock absorber, when it hits the hump, it goes in, it compresses. So what you need is a softer compression pressure that allows it to go in. Then the moment it's in, it holds it, yeah, and to have a higher rebound pressure. So I found the right one. There was about 70% difference between the bound and rebound pressure. That means a higher rebound pressure. So something like 130 kilos bound and 190 or 200 kilos rebound, yeah, to hold. So what happens, the suspension goes in, then the shock absorber holds it and lets it out slowly. So the front we kept the same, we just softened the rear, and what happened after that was our cars were flying like that. So even with a 1.6 liter, we could beat cars that were 2.4 liter with 100 horsepower advantage over us, but my car at 147 horsepower, the other car's at 240. It's a bit less than 100, so I was exaggerating a bit. But because you make the car more agile, and the fact that it flies better will make the car handle better, and you actually become faster through the stages without having to have any extra engine power. You're just able to drive the car better. Okay, so that's about suspension. So in terms of tires, the tires do play a very big part, but it's not just about the tires, okay? So in terms of tires, the wider they are, the more grip they have, yeah? But in the wet, the wider tires are not so good. So it's always a combination. And also for cars, there's also a maximum how much width you can go. Otherwise, you end up fouling the suspension or fouling the fenders and all that. And in terms of tires, we're not talking about tires today, but basically the guideline for tires is always buy the most expensive tire that you can afford, because tire pricing is something that's very unique. It's universal, yeah. The better the tire, the more expensive it is, yeah. So basically, if you can buy the best tire your money can afford, that will probably be the best tire for you. There is no point telling you about a tire that costs an arm and a leg. If you can't afford it, then you can't afford it. So because we are talking to different people with different financial status, so the basic guideline is buy the most expensive tire that you can afford. So that's what I have to say about car handling today. Thank you very much for watching, and if you like it, give it a like, and please share with your friends. And if you haven't subscribed, you know what to do, yeah? The most subscribers we get, the more we can get our sponsors to give us a bit of money, so we can continue to give you this type of content. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.